Hi, loves, and welcome to the very first episode of Meaning in Movement. Thank you all so much for listening in, and I'm just so excited to finally have this platform where I can share stories about fitness, movement, creativity, and all of the incredible people I've met recently who just have inspired me to live with purpose, and I would love to share that with you as well. This podcast is so much more than workouts or training plans. It's going to be about exploring the connection between movement and the arts, diving into stories of inspiring people in fitness and group fitness, and rediscovering the artist that lives within each and every one of us. I believe movement is an art form, and every person has a story worth telling. I wanted to start this podcast for, I think, a couple years now, but because I've been fortunate to have met some really incredible people recently, they have encouraged me to start this. And I can't wait to share more about design, travel, fitness, and art. After so many great conversations, I've always just wanted to hit the record button randomly throughout the conversation. And I leave wishing that I could have recorded that. So there's so much wisdom and stories, and with people, I finally now decided to take the chance and put those out there on a podcast. So thank you for tuning in. Can't wait to share these stories with you guys. And I finally have had the courage to begin. I hope you guys can do that too. If you are looking to start a podcast as well, just do it. It's going to be worth it in the long run. And I think everyone's story deserves to be heard, whether that be in any realm of what your hobbies are, what you love to do. I think it's worth sharing. And I really couldn't imagine a better guest for this very first episode than Alecia Williams. She is an absolute inspiration. She has learned how to walk 3 different times in her career because of injuries. She's had a broken femur and stitches in her face from just her triathlon adventures, and I can't believe she continues to keep on persisting and keep going. She's truly resilient and just the most gritty person you could ever meet, a go-getter, a firecracker, an inspiring athlete, and an even better human being. I met her over email actually when she was helping coordinate with the YMCA for their volunteer 5K event here, and noticed that she was a triathlete coach. So we ended up getting coffee and just talking. And while we were talking, I realized, wow, her story is truly amazing. This woman needs to write a book. She has been through so much, so I can't wait to share her story here. But yeah, I'm so happy to have met her because moving here it's been great getting involved in this community, and it's definitely expanded my perspective on the endurance community between these running groups that I've been a part of, the beach swims, and going on all these bikes with an incredible number of triathletes. They all train year-round here because of the weather. It's just absolutely amazing. Wilmington has been an exciting place recently to just call home and get settled into. And it's a city that keeps on growing. I think it was 4 years ago, it was around 80,000 people, and now it's maybe like 120,000 that people are just drawn here. So it's amazing. But if you're looking to move here and have any questions, please let me know. I'd love to answer them. Also, one organization that has had an incredible impact on the endurance sports realm here is called Without Limits. And Alecia has been a part of this community too, but it was originally founded by Tom Clifford in 2007. It started as a small coaching group and has grown into the Southeast's most respected running and triathlon communities, and it helps athletes from every level just discover what they're truly capable of. So I went to a run this morning and I truly discovered what I was capable of by running 12 by 200 meter kind of sprints on the track, and it was one of the hardest workouts I've done in a long time. And I'm grateful to be part of this community now, though, because there are some Olympic trial runners that are part of it, Ironman finishers that are around 65 years old, just super inspiring people to hang around and be a part of. So thank you, Alecia, for inviting me, and I can't wait to go on more runs and trainings with this group. There is a camp coming up too that I will be part of, and it's just like a camp on Jordan Lake, and we're just doing some swimming coaching, running coaching, and biking around the area. So that would be great to be a part of. But anyways, back to the story. So Alecia, she has been part of the Without Limits group almost for 20 years. And her passion for this sport and her commitment to helping others is, you can just see it. It isn't everything. She approaches training and life in the same way. And it's just incredibly inspiring to hear her story of how she's gotten this far and what she has done to get here. So whether you're an athlete also, or an artist, or someone just looking for a new challenge, everyone loves to hear a meaningful story. And I hope this podcast reminds you that movement has the power to transform not only our bodies, but the way we experience and see the world. So without further ado, this is my very first episode of Meaning in Movement. Let's dive into the story of Alecia Williams.
Hi everybody, my name is Lucy Sinkman, and today I have Alecia with me, and we are going to go over just her story, some triathlon tips of course, and we'll see where the conversation leads us, because I have a lot of questions too about women's health and nutrition in the triathlon world as well, since that is something I'm also getting into and I'm learning from Alecia with. So thank you for being here.
Awesome. I appreciate you having me. I have spent quite a bit of time in this space, so I'm happy to share experiences and anything that might help motivate someone to get into the sport, and happy to answer any questions you have.
I feel like you're a legend in the North Carolina area for sure. So do you want to give just like a brief overview of your life and kind of your way into triathlon training too, like growing up playing sports, and what kind of led you to the triathlon world?
Awesome. So I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. So I played volleyball, basketball, and softball. When I went off to college, I played collegiate softball at both Peace College and NC State. But it was interesting. I got into running first because I got engaged my senior year in college, and I wanted to make sure that I had dropped that freshman 12 or freshman 20, as it was in my case, and I wanted to look good in my wedding dress and feel great about myself. So I kind of got into running that way. And then I started my career at IBM, and they had a little 5K, and I had never run a race or anything. I just ran. And it turned out I won the 5K for the women.
You won your
very first race, yeah. And I got this nice little trophy that I still have. And I just continued running, throughout my life. My husband was in the Navy, and I went over one time. He said he was not a runner. He was a 3-sport athlete as well, but I was going over to meet him in Italy. I flew over, and he's like, "I've been training, and I'm going to run with you." And so I went over, and I'm an extremely competitive person, and I'm like, I can't let him beat me. And so I went over and met him in Italy, and we went for a run, and he did really well. I was really proud of him. And
but did you mind beating him?
I did.
Yes.
I tried not to, but I did. And but he was like, I trained so hard, but he was training on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier, running round and round trying to train for it. So not your ideal training terrain,
Yes.
but he did it, and I was proud of him. He did really well. And then after we had our son, I had not been racing or anything. I just pretty much ran because I love to run. And after we had our son in April of 97, there was a tri-span race downtown, which you recently volunteered for.
Yes, I wore that shirt this morning on my workout.
And so I ran that race and came in like third overall. And I'd never trained for running a race. I just went out and ran. I just went out and did it. And then, I started doing some additional distances, 10Ks, half marathons. And then I ran into a coach in Gold's Gym back in the day. And I had on I think a tri-span shirt and had the race thing on it. And he came up to me and said, "Hey, are you a runner?" I said, "Yeah." And I was probably 40, 44, 45 at the time. It's like, "I'm a runner, but I can't seem to break an 8-minute mile to save my life." And he told me, "Hey, I'm a coach. I can get you faster." And here I was 44, 45. He was like 21. And I'm thinking to myself, I've probably seen my better days in running, but I started training with him. He got me faster. I broke the 8-minute mile. I had a race coming up, a half marathon, ended up placing first in age group in that marathon. So he really worked me hard and got me into running. And simultaneously, to get to your point about triathlons, because I was a runner at my church, a guy was a good cyclist, and he's like, "Hey, you're a pretty good runner, right?" And I'm like,
people just come up to you and they're like, "Hey, wait a second,
you're a runner, right?" And so probably because I wear a lot of running race shirts and things, but he's like, he knew that I was a runner, and he's like, "I'm trying to build a triathlon team for White Lake," which they had a half iron distance over there, which is a 1.2 mile swim, a 56 mile bike, and a 13.1 mile run. Wondered if you would be interested in being our runner. I'm like, "Sure, I'd love to do that." And he's like, "We got a really good swimmer. I'm a decent cyclist and you're a good runner, so let's go do it." Well, lo and behold, we did it, and we came in first for the team triathlon. So we were really happy with that. And for years and years, we did this little half iron over there. Well, one year we branched out and we did a full Ironman as a team. So we had the swim, which was 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and a 26.2 mile marathon. And we did a couple of those, but I was always the run leg of it. And I remember him telling me one time, "It's not going to be long before you just do triathlons yourself." And I was like, I have no swim background. I was a lifeguard at a pool, but that was as far as my swimming had gone. I didn't own the bike other than a little cruiser bike, to ride my son around on. But when I got in my kind of later 40s and started going through menopause and all the changes in life, everything started breaking down. I was injured left and right. I mean, the run intensity with the volume of running, half marathon training, full marathon training, everything just started breaking down. And I went through a lot of injuries and all the changes. And so my coach at Without Limits, Tom Clifford, he was like, he had gotten into triathlons. He goes, "What do you think about trying to train for a triathlon?" And I'm like, I have no swim background whatsoever. And I'm late 40s, right? I don't even own a bike. So yeah, I'm up for it because it will offload. The swimming and the biking are non-impact.
Yeah.
So it will offload and let me do a little cross training. And so that's how I got into triathlons. One, as a team member, the running leg. And then secondly, he was encouraging me to do it. And they had this little, I don't think they still have this race, but over at White Lake again, they had this little thing called the Diva Dash. And it was a little short, women's only. And I thought, well, that's a good way to get into it. Non-intimidating, women only. But it was short. It was like a 300-yard swim, a 7-mile bike, and maybe a 2-mile run. It was something really, really short. And I thought, it's digestible. I think I can do it.
You're dipping your pool in the triathlon world. I feel like the triathlon sprint, because that's what I signed up for too. And I think it's a good tester, like you said before, to see if you really like it. And after that race, you realize that you kind of got the bug.
Yeah, I did. Well, it's funny because, again, I had no swim background. And I think I was telling you this earlier, the swim leg of it, when I came out and got on the pier and running down, I'm like, I think that was terrible. I'm never doing this again. But I ended up winning in the novice category. And I'm like, well, maybe it wasn't so bad. And that's when I was like, okay, I think I can be a triathlete. I kind of enjoy this. It was a nice little mix of swim, bike, run, and I think I like it. So that's kind of how long-winded story short, that's how I got into triathlon.
And I noticed, yeah, starting a little bit later in life sometimes is the way to go too, because you've already dealt and had so much resiliency in other sports, in life, and setbacks. But then when you get in triathlon training, it's like that, but in a different sort of way. Like you're able to get in the flow and like let your mind go in a training sense. I'm sure that probably was a good, like, I don't know, it's different space for you, for
Yeah,
sure.
and I think when you get to that, a little older in life as well, things have settled down in your personal life a little bit. Your children are older, your career is more established. And, when you've got little kids in diapers or, a lot of needs when they're younger versus when they get a little more self-sufficient, when they get older, you've got a time as a wife and a mother to be able to devote some time to yourself, and do some things that you like. Where running, you can just go out and do it just about any time. You have to have a little more structure around swim, bike, and run, getting to a pool, going out on a bike or on a trainer. But I think at that age in life, things have settled down just a little, where you can focus a little more on yourself, where you've been maybe devoted to your kids or your spouse or your career. You open up a little bit to other things to focus on yourself.
Yeah, it's a very fresh new time for you. It's kind of a new era of life that you're starting. And you're not even old. You're still so young. I think women peak way later in life compared to guys for triathlon or just long
Yeah,
distance
I think
training.
guys are more in the 32 to 36 range is where they hit their peaks. If you look, women tend to be a little more in that 35 to 42-ish, 35 to 40, 35, 30, 45 in that range tend to be, at their peak at that point. So.
Wow. See, I just learned that recently and that was something that blew my mind. I had no idea about. So, yes, so thank you for telling me your story. And one more question for you. So, was there ever a moment that you realized, like, I'm a triathlete now? Was it when you were on the podium after your first race and first win, or was it a little bit after a few races?
Yeah, I think that first one certainly was like, okay, I've put my toe in the water here, but it was a little short one. So I wasn't fully convinced because the distance was so short. So I actually, that guy that said that there's going to come a time where you're going to want to do the whole thing. Well, I signed up for a half iron. At first, I did an Olympic distance, and then I did a half Ironman. And so I think after I did the Olympic and podium, and then I did the half iron and podium, then I'm like, okay, maybe there's something to this. Maybe I can be good at this. So I think that was it. The little diva dash, yeah, it was an intro, but I felt like the distances were pretty short. So am I really a triathlete, or do I need to do a sprint, Olympic, half iron, full iron distance? But I think it was after the Olympic and the half iron that I felt, yeah, maybe there's something to that.
Wow, where was the half Ironman again?
That first half iron was over at White Lake again. At that
Oh,
time, that was probably the closest race that we had before they introduced Beach to Battleship here in Wilmington. They had an inaugural race in Wilmington that was a half iron distance, and they did a half and a full iron distance. So, and for years and years, that was a private race before Ironman bought the race, and then it became an Ironman half and full, and then Ironman just pulled it down to just a half. They only do the half here now. So
wow. Yeah, I notice now a lot of people around this area are training for that because there's one that's coming up soon.
yes, in October.
Are you signed up for that one?
No, I'm staffing that one. So one of my friends is the race coordinator for it, and she tells me I can never run that race. The last one I did was probably 2023. She's like, you can never do the race because you have to help me staff it. So that's my way of giving back,
Oh,
to the sport. So I usually staff that one.
And yeah, you're volunteering with the YMCA. That's how we met, was through the YMCA, through that 5K. And then you're also volunteering for the race at the ship. So you're just always involved in these races, which is so cool to see and an inspiration. So I feel like the best energy is always around the volunteers and the people giving back at the races. Like they're just there to have fun and make sure you have fun during your race too and keep everybody pushing forward.
Yeah, that's a great way to give back to the sport as well. And you get to see the other side of it, because I think sometimes people aren't really aware of everything that goes on behind the scenes of putting on a race and staffing a race and what it takes to pull that off, and how grateful most of the athletes are that you're out there giving them a cup of water, giving them a smile, giving them a hand clap, cheering for them, supporting their effort, everything from the fastest to the slowest. And, I think it's just a great way to give back. And I had to do a lot of it. When I was injured, it was my way of staying part of the run and triathlon community, when I was injured. So it's a great way to stay involved.
That's amazing. Thank you for doing that. And I'm sure the community greatly appreciates your energy too, because having somebody that has that much experience, but then on the sidelines too, just cheering them along is something great to see. All right. And so, do you ever feel intimidated by people that have been in the triathlon world at all a little bit longer than you, or are you pretty confident with like your past and what has brought you your way forward? Do you have any like regrets about not starting earlier, or are you pretty set with the way things have gone?
I would say I'm not really intimidated, because I think there are divisions within triathlon, both male and female. So you're not, the women aren't competing against the men, and there's age group designation. So you're really competing with people in your own age group. So I think the intimidation is a little less. Now, I will say it's intimidating some of the equipment that people show up with, high end, really expensive bikes with, disc wheels on the back. So some of the equipment you look at and you're like, wow, that's quite an investment.
Like Chris's bike the other day.
Yeah. Oh, that's not even
really
what you see in some of the triathlon. I mean, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars invested in some of these bikes. So, and that's probably the most intimidating thing, is when you see people rolling in with that kind of equipment. Mm-hmm. And that can be a little daunting, but most of the time they're professionals or, really high age group. When I say high, just age group capable winners, that have that kind of equipment. So that can be a little intimidating, I guess, but I look at it, I'm not competing against them anyway. So.
Yes, you're kind of like competing against yourself in a way.
And that's exactly it. And I think it's not a competition, although I compete against other people, but it's really about what you can do, what your capabilities are, and doing the best you can within what you're capable of and where your training has positioned you. Yeah. To race. That's what I think is the most important thing. And just focus on, here's what I can do.
And giving your best foot forward.
Yeah.
Speaking about gear and being a beginner, what recommendations do you have for anyone starting out? What is the simple triathlon kit they could get or purchase, basically?
Yeah, so of course, when you're swimming, you're going to have goggles, and you can go anywhere from, cheap, whatever fits your face good that doesn't leak. So you have to have goggles because you got to be able to see in the water. Cap and their caps are cheap. Goggles are cheap. Those are two essentials for the swim. For the bike, I would say start with what you have or what you can afford, because if you dive into a sprint, or what I'll call a mini sprint, which was like that first one that I started with, you see everything from, hybrid bikes to mountain bikes to road bikes to high-end triathlon bikes. But I remember the first one I did, there was a woman out there riding a cruiser with a bell on it, and she rang that bell, when she was riding the whole time. I had to go around her, so she's like, ding, 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 which was, I thought, cute. It was really cute. Yes. So, start with where you're comfortable and with what you have. or what you can afford. There's no right or wrong answer, and you don't have to go high end and invest a lot, especially if you're putting your toe in the water deciding, do I really want to do this? Do I like it? Don't spend a bunch of money trying to do it. Go with what you have. And a lot of people do it on mountain bikes, hybrid bikes, and even road bikes.
Yeah.
I did do the first half iron on a road bike, which I regretted because that is, 56 miles on a road bike with the pressure on your hands and your shoulders, plus the fact that you're more upright, so your body is a sail, so you're not only fighting with moving forward momentum on the road, but you've got wind resistance because your body's a sail when you're up in that position. So after that, and I decided I was really into it, I invested in a triathlon bike because I was in it for the long haul and the long distance. So that was the point where I moved from road bike to triathlon bike.
And that probably was a good marker for you in your journey too. That's like, okay, I'm investing in this. Yeah. This is something I really want to take seriously and get into.
But you don't have to do, like I know you got clip-in shoes recently.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. I mean, you can just ride pedals. You can do something called power grips, which are pedals that have a strap across the top where you've got your running shoes already on, and you can pedal with your running shoes. And when you go from bike to run, you've already got your running shoes on. So there are things like that. So there are ways you don't have to invest in, clip-in pedals. If that intimidates you, don't invest in it yet. Just start simple, start easy with what you feel comfortable with, because I think if you are intimidated or you're afraid, you probably won't like the sport and you won't want to stay in it. So just start simple. And then, with training, you want to start simple as well. A lot of people say, well, I'm not a swimmer, and I remember I was very proud the first time I swam 100 yards, which is the length of a pool and back. And I remember telling the swim coach, wow, I swam 100 without stopping. And I thought it was like the greatest thing in the world. And now, 3,600 yards is nothing. But I remember when 100 felt like a major accomplishment, right?
So, I know how you feel, because when I first started going back in the pool freestyle, like I love breaststroke. I can do that for forever, but freestyle is still something I'm getting used to. And when you're first starting out in the pool, actually, I think learning how to breathe is also so important.
Absolutely. And that's where most people really blow it in swim stroke is trying to breathe, because when we're cycling or running, you breathe at will. When you're in the water, you can't breathe at will, but you learn techniques on how to breathe. And when I'm in a race, I breathe every stroke because, I'm in that aerobic and sometimes anaerobic motion. So I have to breathe every stroke. Otherwise, you get into that zone, because otherwise you're going to get your heart rate too jacked up. You'll be in extreme anaerobic zone.
I have probably a dumb question, but I always breathe on my right side. I haven't been doing my left side. Is there a specific side that you have to?
Whatever's most comfortable.
Okay.
Some people swim right, some people swim left, and if you're breathing every stroke, you tend to have a side that feels either more flexible. There's no right or wrong answer, just what's the most comfortable for you. I tend to be a left side because I have more range of motion to the left side than I do to the right. I have some old softball shoulder injuries. And it's just not as natural. But I think it's important to learn to breathe both sides, because I had one race one year where it was pouring rain, extremely windy, and hard cloud cover, but the wind and the current out in the channel were fighting each other, and there were white caps in the channel. And the side I was breathing to was where the white caps were. And if I should have practiced more breathing to the other side, because it wasn't as stressful breathing to the right side with I probably swallowed half the ocean in that particular race.
But it tasted so good.
That one was, the thought of drowning didn't cross my mind in that one. But no, I had trained really hard. I'm like, just gut through it. You can make it. You've done distance. You've done the volume. Just work through it,
Persevering through triathlon training and staying resilient is something that you, I know, have gone through. And tell me about your past injuries that you've had and anything that has kind of halted your triathlon training.
Awesome. So, yeah, that's a good question. Because fighting through injury is always a hard thing to do. But I back in 2014 and 2015, I did a really long training cycle where I had done a marathon to qualify for Boston. I had done the Boston Marathon, and then I had done a full Ironman in November of 2015, only to turn around, take a little break, and start training for Boston 2016. And so in Boston 2016, at the 23-mile mark of the course, of the 26.2-mile course, I broke my femur, which is the thigh bone, the biggest bone in your body, the hardest one to break. Hardly anybody breaks it unless they have a skiing accident or a car accident. But mine came because someone discarded a Noon tablet container, which is a round plastic tube that did not collapse under my foot. And so I surfed across it and came off of it awkwardly where my heel jammed in the road with my knee hyperextended, and I heard it and felt it snap. And I had to had to be rushed to ER, and had to have a titanium rod put from my hip to my knee with 2 screws at my hip and 2 at my knee. And I was in the hospital for 5 days because I had lost so much blood in the jagged break in the bone sliced through, soft tissue. They were terrified that my femoral artery was severed, and they couldn't get a pulse at my ankle, so they rushed me to ER. And come to find out, that was not the case. I didn't sever that artery, but I did have some tears in the muscle fibers. And so they put the rod in. I spent 5 days getting, blood because I'd lost so much blood. And they wouldn't let me go until I proved I could walk down the hall on crutches and climb some stairs on crutches, which was terrifying after falling and and it was hard. And it took me until the 5th day. And finally I was like, I am going to walk if it kills me because I want to be out of this hospital. And so we had to drive home from Boston to Wilmington, and my 80-year-old parents came up, or late 70s, came up to pick me up, and we went through a pretty sketchy drive home, and it was pretty painful.
Hi everyone, I'm tuning back in here to share some photos from Alecia's recovery journey. So if you're able to see this on YouTube, be aware of the content that will be coming up here. It is graphic, so if you are not comfortable with that, just skip through this portion. But after speaking with Alecia too a bit more after the interview, we got into the recovery after the Boston Marathon and kind of more of the mental side of it, along with some more physical reactions that she had. So after her hospital stay, she discovered she was allergic to morphine too. What she thought was a rash was actually a serious reaction from her body, and she had no idea that she was also having these allergic reactions. The recovery process for her was humbling because she was not able to shower for 5 days. She felt absolutely disgusting, she said, and afterwards she had to give herself daily Love Knox injections in her stomach for an entire month, later learning that aspirin may have been an alternative option to this. So this realization highlighted how overwhelming and uncertain medical decisions can feel when you're in the middle of trauma and healing. And the first night after her parents came to pick her up from the surgery, she stayed at a motel in a room by herself. And while she's learning to trust her body again after walking, she had to sleep alone in a room. She was so afraid to get up and go to the bathroom, she placed a trash can beside her bed because just in case she needed to use it. So this wasn't just a physical recovery, it was a huge mental challenge of feeling vulnerable after being pushed. Literally, she pushed her body to the limits with the Boston Marathon. And I can't even imagine what this must have felt like. And her story is such a powerful reminder that recovery is not only about healing all these bones and muscles and rebuilding, it's about rebuilding your confidence in yourself, gaining your independence, and the relationship that you have with your own body. So I'm just truly inspired by her resiliency and how she's redefining strength for women when your bodies are forcing you to slow down. It's hard to, but she has found a way to push through and be resilient. So Thank you, Alecia, for sharing these additional details with me and sharing these photos. And let's get back to the podcast.
But I had to walk. I had to learn to walk again at 54, which is not what I recommend for anybody.
And coming off the race too, you thought you were so strong, and then you had to learn literally how to walk up the stairs, and you probably did not realize that is, what you were going to be going through after that race.
That is a great point, because I think, the mental games start whenever you have an injury like that, and I'm like, how can I have trained and run 23 miles of a 26.2 mile run, and now I can't even walk a handful of steps? I mean, that is psychologically damaging, to you're like, what will the future hold here, right? And so I got 6 months into the recovery, and I was out on a swim one day in a pool, and we were doing some kick work, and all of a sudden it felt like someone shot me in my knee, with a handgun or something. That's excruciating pain. I just about had to crawl to my car. I'm like, what just happened? And so I went to a physical therapist, and he referred me for a CT scan, and come to find out a screw had backed out at my knee and was catching and caught on my IT band, which was horribly painful. But when the physical therapist did his analysis as well, reading the CT scan, it's like there was still a gap between the bone halves that didn't heal. So I was really literally running and biking and swimming on the rod, not my bone.
Oh.
And it was the rod was too long, obviously. My foot was rotated in 11 degrees, and it was incredibly painful. And so he's like, you need to have the whole thing done over again. And I'm like, I can't go through this surgery again, going under anesthesia. The surgery was painful, and unfortunately I had seen a video of how they get those rods and screws out.
The video.
And the video was terrible. The body was bouncing, and I can't go through that. But I talked to my coach about it because I was highly upset. Tom Clifford with Without Limits, and he's like, you need to just have it done. The sooner you have it done, the sooner you'll be back, to doing what you love. And I'm like, I didn't want to hear that. It's like, I wanted the pity party. I wanted the sympathy. I can't go through it. I wanted somebody to say, don't go through it. But
like, why don't you just stop?
Just stop, and just deal with a permanent limp. But then the physical therapist was like, realize you can't continue walking and running on a rod where the bone is not carried. The rod is only there until the bone heals. Mm-hmm. And the more you put pressure on that rod, it's putting pressure on the screws that are through your knee and through your hip, and they're like paper clips. So if you keep bending them back and forth like that, they will snap. And then if they snap and you lose, you are at risk of having to have plates and screws put down the side of your leg. So you need to just have this done. So I went back and had a new rod, new screws, and everything put in. Got 8 months into recovery. It was still extremely painful, and trying to learn to walk again the second time. And then I found out the bone still didn't heal. It had healed on the back side, but it didn't heal on the front side. So I had to go back in a third time and have this sponge-like material with cadaver bone and bone marrow out of my hip injected in. And finally, a big bulb of bone grew around the rod, where now the bone was carrying the load, and now the hardware is riding along for free.
How long did that take for the bone to...
Gosh, it was probably 8 months, I think. But I mean, grand total was a year and a half of 3 different surgeries and getting back into it. And I was still trying to walk, run, do triathlons, and it was kind of painful because I had to learn to cycle again as well, because my knee was very stiff from the surgery and the screws in my knee, and being able to revolve the pedals, especially with any power. It finally took to get the revolutions going around, but then building back power, is hard, because your bones and your muscles, because I had torn through muscle as well, so building back the strength to be able to cycle again.
Were you ever at the risk for osteoporosis after this?
I did have osteopenia, so not porosis, but I had a bone density test, and I was osteopenia, and my grandmother had osteoporosis. It does run in the family.
Oh, so it's genetic.
Yeah. It can be genetic, and it also can be, just poor eating habits and not getting enough calcium and protein and all of those things. But so I was at risk anyway, and they think that maybe I had a stress fracture in my femur for it to have broken like it did, because there was I didn't have any at the time. They did a bone density test when they were doing surgery, and they're like, there's no other reason other than there must have been a stress fracture there. And prior to that, about 2 weeks before it, I had felt like a pinch up in my hip, and I thought it was just because we had gone and run some hills up in Raleigh at Umstead Park, and I thought maybe it was just the different terrain and the roots and the ruts and all of the things and trails that we had run. I thought that's what, maybe I was just reacting. I had no idea I had a stress fracture.
Oh gosh.
And then it broke,
So you learned to walk again 3 different times, and then you learned to be a triathlete again and learn how to bike and swim and run after learning how to walk.
Mm-hmm.
That is just insane. And how have other people in your training group, how have they been a good support for you throughout this journey too?
My training buddies have been amazing, and the Without Limits team, people who have heard the story, and even other athletes in the area that have heard the story, they're like, it's so inspiring, because as I mentioned before, it's demoralizing in your own mind when you're like, I used to be the speed, I used to be able to do this, I've had these kind of podium places, and now look at me. At the time when I first started running, I couldn't even run a 12-minute mile, and I was like devastated, and like, I used to be able to do this. But I think the encouraging part of the community support was they're like, wow, this is so inspiring. If you can come through that, we have no excuse. Or, it's just amazing to see the progress and I'll call it grit for lack of better term.
You are the most gritty person I know.
Oh, thank you. But just the determination to get back into it, and I'm super competitive. Like I told you, I'm like, I can't let this beat me. I can't let it beat me. Because you can be one of two things. You can either be, oh, what a shame, of what happened to her, and it ended her, and I don't want to call it career, but it ended the thing that she loved, or what an inspiration. You bounce back from adversity. You put everything you got into trying to rehab yourself and get back to it. And I'd rather be the, oh, what an inspiration, not, oh, what a shame.
Yes. And you're definitely what an inspiration. And I'm sure you're inspiring young girls, young athletes too, that are also looking to get in the triathlon world, especially me, for 100%. So I like coming in now, I'm like, if she can do this after learning how to walk again and 3 different times, I can learn how to just become a beginner and dip my into the shallow end of a triathlon sprint and see where that takes me. But I think I already have the bug, if you can't tell.
I love it. And that's what it's all about. I mean, I'm 64 now, and probably seen my better days, but I still like to compete. I still like the podium place. I still like to push myself. But now it's about giving back and trying to, help other people who are new, whether they're 24 or whether they're 44 or 54 or 74. There's never I don't think you're ever too old to learn or to get into it, and you just do what was within your capacity to be able to train and do. And I think the younger you start, certainly the sky is the limit. I'm coaching a 22-year-old guy right now who's got just massive potential, and I think you've got massive potential. You're lean, you're right height, for women who are good swimmers and good cyclists. So finding what you want to accomplish, what your goals are, and it's not about always podium placing. It's do you just want to finish? Do you want to say, hey, I've done this, I'm proud of myself, I spent the time training, I was able to pull off this thing, this series of swim, bike, run, and what a great feeling that gives you to be able to pull that off.
Yes, it's like you're showing up for yourself, and you're showing up that you're showing yourself that you can put yourself through hard things, and then that just helps you in real life to accomplish other things in different areas of your life, whether that be in work, with family. It'll help you just overall, and your mindset is everything, like you said.
It's great.
It's so huge. And going back to coaching, so you coach a wide age range of people. How did you get into coaching too, to begin with?
So that's a great question. Because I had spent so much time training, I mean, I was probably Tom Clifford at Without Limits. I was his first athlete that started training with him. And then when I got in my 40s and started with all those, injuries and getting into triathlon and stuff, as we worked together for so many years, probably, I don't know, 20 plus years now, he was after me for probably the past 5 to 10 years of coming to help him coach. But I was the breadwinner in my family and needed to get in a financial place where I could, when I stepped away from the high-tech world, focus on trying to help others from all the experiences that I've had, not only just with injuries and training, but the women's issues with premenopause, perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, and all of the things that, men don't typically have an understanding or an appreciation for.
Yeah.
Well, I've been through all of it and got the trophy on the other side.
Yes, you trained through all of it too. That's insane.
Exactly. So, I mean, I just think that it doesn't matter what age, and it's just really about what your goals are. And, let me see if I can help you accomplish where you are and try to get you to the goals that you want to accomplish, whatever they are. I mean, it could be, again, just to finish.
Yeah.
Or just to run a 5K, or just to run, just to do a sprint triathlon. Whatever your goals are, let's work within where you are and where you want to grow, and let's see if we can get you there, because we will get you there.
What did it feel like when somebody first came up to you and was like, can you be my coach?
Well, I actually had that happen a couple of years ago, and it was because my chiropractor, her son-in-law was training for his first sprint triathlon, and they were having an argument about some training, and I happened to walk in the door for my appointment, and the chiropractor, she goes, that's the one you need to ask right there. And I was like, wait a minute, what are we asking me? And so he was asking for some nutrition advice, some training advice, and then he got through that sprint, didn't do particularly well for his strength level and his endurance and what he wanted to accomplish. But then he went and signed up from a sprint to a full Ironman. And he and his fiance called and said, hey, I did a thing. I signed up for an Ironman and I want you to be my coach. So I took on the job, and it was interesting because he's also young. He was in like early 30s, and getting him there, and he did fantastic. And along the course of the training cycle, I could determine about where he was going to be on the swim, where he was going to be on the bike, and where he was going to be on the run based on the training. We did a whole nutrition plan for what he needed to consume, his calories on the bike, his calories on the run, his electrolyte levels, his water levels. And he completed his first Ironman and felt great. I mean, and he did exactly on the swim like we thought, within a minute on the bike of what we thought. And then on the run, he cramped a little, halfway through, but he still finished in a respectable time. His run wasn't exactly what we wanted, but he had an injury mid-training cycle, and we had to just get him to the start line at that point and trust that the training he had done around it would suffice, because he did have a pretty serious leg injury. But we got through it, and he completed it, and he felt great about himself. And
that must have been an accomplishment for you too. To be like, I helped him through all this. I gave him his whole plan, and he did amazing. Exactly what
what we trained for, and exactly where I thought he would be, because I was tracking him remotely, and he nailed it, every one. And then he went out on the run way too fast, because I told him, you're going to have to build into the run. Well, he took off on the run at like 7:30 pace, and I was texting this fiance. I'm like, what is he doing? I was like, if you're there, tell him to back off. You tell him to slow down. He's going to blow up. And he did. But he said, I was just feeling so great coming off the bike. And I'm like, you got 26.2 miles to run. You need to chill. You need to back that down.
Take it slow for sure. I feel like you get so much adrenaline probably, when you're coming off like, oh, I did a really good swim right there, and like you're really on a high. Back. So you do nutrition plans for people, and there's obviously a huge difference for, I don't know, like the age range, the guys versus girls, but I would love for us to talk more about women's health and nutrition in this field too, just because that's something that is very prevalent to need right now as well. And I think it's not studied as much as the guys. So throughout your experience, being a woman and going through menopause, and also just like realizing what you need to do to fuel yourself to do these huge races, how has that shaped your own personal plan and making plans for other women as well?
Great question. And first of all, I'm not a nutritionist, so I need to caveat, I'm not a nutritionist.
I'm
not a nutritionist, but I do help with race fueling, and pre-workout, things you should consume from electrolytes and protein and things like that. But I do help my athletes build their training plan for race day, pre-race and race day, fueling. I'll call it fueling, not nutrition. So that's what I help them do. But I think, the era that I came through was the era of people being anorexic, bulimic, and things like that. And so I think as women, we were this was, 80s, early 90s time frame. I think women were so uber obsessed with being thin and not eating and not consuming enough calories. And so I had to learn the hard way of fueling effectively enough to get through marathons, triathlons, all of the things. And I think what we've, especially in women's health, been maybe undernourished on is the protein area. I mean, I think we went on this whole no fat, coming back from the 80s, 90s, the no fat thing. Well, fat actually helps you burn fat. You have to consume fat to burn fat, right? And so I think there was just so much social pressure for no fat, be really, really skinny, and not have any. I think protein was kind of taboo back in the day, and I think what I've learned over the years is protein is essential. And we as women have to consume much more protein than we think. And in fact, a gram of protein per pound of body weight, not fat, body weight. So as a 120-pound woman, you should be consuming 120 grams of protein per day. And if you spread that across 3 or 4 or 5 meals a day, somewhere around 20 to 40 grams of protein per meal, because what our bodies do, if we don't get adequate protein, our bodies will literally burn muscle and protect fat, because your body will go into survival mode, and burn muscle instead of fat, and hold on to the fat because it's in survival mode. And so I think what we really have to focus more on as females is the protein aspect. And a lot of us, I could give 2 rats, but if I ever consumed protein, I could happily live on no protein, but you have to have it, so I think, and natural sources, eggs, lean beef, fish, chicken, those things are great. And I also supplement with, a clean protein powder. I do that to supplement, because especially if you're on the go and you don't have time to get, at least if you can get down a good protein powder, I supplement with that.
Do you have a favorite one that you use?
I just changed. I had been using Prime Protein, and I recently changed to First Form, PHORM, and I really like it because it's really light and refreshing, and the flavors are good. I mean, some of them are really chalky, hard to mix, but I do like those two a lot. And they're both very clean, highly rated proteins. So I like those two. So,
Good to know because I need some recommendations. I do use the Orgain, I think it's called.
yes, I've seen them. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was nice too, but I definitely want to try some more because it's good to experiment. If you're ingesting it this much too, you don't know how it might make you feel if you're on a better one or not on a better one.
And we've had such extreme heat this year with, sweat ratios out the wazoo. And, we also have to get in a great amount of electrolytes,
Yes.
from cramping, dehydration. And it's been a particularly hot summer, so I've had to increase my own electrolytes.
I just ordered some too.
Oh gosh, awesome.
I definitely need some. I was gonna ask you, do you ever deal with cases like where people have anemia?
Anemia?
Not
No.
anemia, the loss of the period, amenorrhea.
Oh, that one. I don't. I probably experienced that many, of course, it's been a long time since, it's been over 10 years since I've had a period. So, I think when I experienced it, not that this the same for everybody else, but I was iron deficient, when I was experiencing that. So, but I think it's pretty common, especially as women get closer to menopause, the cycle's going to be all over the place. But I would not say I've coached anyone that is having that issue.
Yeah, I noticed there are like gymnasts, it's very prevalent in gymnasts and runners. So running, I feel like if you're not feeling enough to, it probably happens, and sleeping enough. Sleep is so important, I'm sure you know. And a lot of the groups though that you ride in, they wake up at 5:30. What time do you go to bed normally?
So when I have to, and the ride starts at 5:30, so you're actually needing to get up about 4:40 or earlier, because you got to get up, brush your teeth, and I got to put contacts in and all the, load your bike up or whatever. So getting up at 4:40, I tend to be on those mornings getting up or going to bed at like 9 p.m. so that I get enough and that's pushing it at just 7.5 hours sleep, assuming that I sleep that 7. You could go 8:30 or earlier, but I tend to go around 9 p.m. for that early morning wake up.
Do you ever get pre-race jitters too the night before and like not able to sleep? Because I feel like that might be me too.
Every single race. And it's not just the night before. I start the week of the race. I struggle sleeping because I have a lot of performance anxiety. I'll be the first to admit I want to perform well. And it gets in my head, and I play through the race in my head, and I do through all the transitions in my head. So I struggle to sleep the whole week. But I tend to podium play, so I put a lot of pressure on myself, and it becomes, it is a challenge that I have because I do have pre-race jitters, and I'm kind of a race morning, and I'll call it nervous energy. I'll call it a lot of nervous. I'm ready to once I get started, I'm great. It's just getting to that starting line. I'm like, and I'm ready to go. I'm anxious.
You're excited too. I always like to turn like my nervousness into excitement. That's when I'm like, okay, I'm just excited to get this going and get started. And you've been thinking about it and planning for it for so long that it's probably like, wow, the day is finally here. Like, let's go.
And I'm not sure you ever, this was something that earlier in my career, I think I was telling you earlier in my career when I had anxiety about and nervousness about speaking in front of large groups of people and having those butterflies. I'll call it butterflies. And he made this comment. You never lose them. You just teach them how to fly in formation.
I like that.
And so, if you can channel that nervous energy, that excitement, and use it to your advantage to fuel yourself, propel yourself forward. And like I said, once I get on the swim, once I get into it, I'm fine. It's just that nervous energy, excitement going into it.
Recognizing, that you have all this energy and just put it into something good. Put it into something that'll fuel you forward.
Exactly. Yeah, use it to your advantage.
Yes.
I think when you lose it, you kind of have a meh performance. If you don't go in with some level of jitters and excitement.
It just shows that your love for the sport is always still there. You're invigorated by the environment that's around you. I'm sure since you are an extrovert too, you get a lot of energy from all the people around you.
Yeah, there's a hike. I remember the first Boston that I did. I could not get over when I went to pick up the packet.
Oh, yes.
And the energy that was, and I've never been real sensitive to that energy, but I just remember walking into that hall to pick it, and it's just the vibe was nearly electric.
Wow.
It was incredible, most incredible thing I think I've ever, and the same with Ironman events, you go to pick up and it's just, you can literally feel the energy from the excitement from people, the nervous energy from people. It is nearly electric.
Wow.
It's incredible.
That's amazing to be a part of. Wow. And that's probably why you still love volunteering too and being part of those races as well. Wow. I don't know if you want to answer any more questions. I feel like we have gone through a lot, but we'll do a rapid fire.
Sure.
I think that would be really fun.
That'd be fun.
Okay. So if you could pick one, I think I might know the answer to this already. Would you swim, bike, or run?
What do you think I would answer?
Run.
You got it.
Mm-hmm.
Run.
That was your first love. Favorite post-workout meal?
It's going to be terrible for me to say, but pizza.
No, that's good. I love pizza too.
That's my favorite, but not the best. But yeah, I'm getting some calories back in.
Do you like pineapple on pizza?
I love pineapple, but I found out I have a food sensitivity to pineapple, so I tend to try to avoid it. But every now and then I do cheat.
Yes, I love pineapple on pizza. That's one thing that some people love or hate, and so I always ask people that. Morning or evening workouts?
Morning.
Yes. Favorite race distance?
I like the half iron 70.3 distance. It tends to be my favorite. It's challenging enough without being overwhelming like a full iron, but enough distance where you're not going full tilt, hammering as hard as you can go like a sprint. I like the half iron distance.
Okay, I feel like that'd be a fun race to try. Most memorable race. Oh, could be good or bad, I guess.
So I would say the most, on the positive note, the most memorable was the first Ironman that I did myself. And it's most memorable because I had a terrible digestive issue at mile 18 that cost me 20 minutes in the bathroom.
Oh.
And I thought I had blown it. And I was crying, and I spent, like I said, 20 minutes in the bathroom. But I was like, I trained for this. I'm going to finish this. And so I finished it, crossed the finish line, and my parents were like, what happened? They're like, you were spot on what you told us you'd be on the swim, what you would be on the bike, and then the run, you didn't hit that. And I'm like, I was in the bathroom for 20 minutes. And I went home. I was disgusted. I was aggravated. And the next morning, my phone was blowing up because people were like, how did you do? Did you win? I'm like, I don't know. I had this digestive issue. And they're like, well, if you didn't win, who did? And I went and checked the race results, and I had come in first.
That's insane.
In age group, spending 20 minutes in the bathroom. And they had the award ceremony the next morning. And so I just dashed down it was down here in this convention center, and I dashed down here to get my award. And not only had I won that race, but I had come in first for North Carolina long distance.
Shut up.
It's like I thought I had blown it. So my most memorable was the one that I had that terrible digestive issue and still finished. And that's why proof positive, don't stop. Even if you encounter a problem, don't give up. Just keep going. So that's probably my most memorable. Even though it's kind of a funny story, but
that just shows how fast you actually are. I can't even. That is so amazing.
I was like 12 hours and 10 minutes, which I should have been like 11:50, but it was like a 12-hour, 10-minute.
My dad has had that, well, not like a digestion issue, but he took the wrong turn in a race.
Oh, no.
And then he ended up still playing. He got like second or something still. I'm like, how did you do that? That's
awesome.
Insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's crazy. Okay, and then one piece of gear you can't live without too.
Garmin watch.
Oh, yes. I love my Garmin.
I can't live without it. It does all my body metrics and measures everything.
I was sad mine was dead this morning on my bike, and I didn't get to track it, but that's okay. I feel like sometimes it's nice to have like nothing on your wrist too. So, but yeah, I love the Garmin. Do you use Strava to also track your?
I don't. I mostly just use Training Peaks. A lot of people are like, you got to do it on Strava, and I have a Strava login. I just never use it. I should, but I don't.
No. But
Garmin Connect and Training Peaks is what I tend to use.
I love Garmin Connects too. It tracks everything. Then it also creates workout plans for you. I saw. Didn't know it did that. All right, and then favorite motivational quote.
So it's actually a Bible verse, but also a motivational quote. In fact, I saw this little girl doing a 5K, and she goes, "I can do hard things," but I use the Bible verse from Philippians 4:19. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So that's my favorite quote. So when I'm in the thick of things, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can do all things.
Wow.
So that's probably my favorite.
I love that. So faith has been a huge proponent, and also throughout your training too.
Yeah, absolutely. All the healing, I give all the glory to God for that, because all the healing I couldn't have done on my own.
That's amazing. And then last question. Finish this sentence. Triathlon has taught me blank.
I would say resilience, because it is not easy. I mean, I don't want to convince anybody that it's easy to do a half iron, a full iron, but I think you have to put in the work clearly and trust your training. But it does teach you that resilience. And I would also say it also taught me gratitude, because I think I probably didn't appreciate it too much until I couldn't do it there for a period of time. So I think it's also taught me gratitude, be grateful for what you can do and not focus on what you can't do. So focus on what you can do. And so I would say gratitude is probably another lesson that I've learned from the sport. Yeah.
Speaking of gratitude, thank you for doing this first episode with me and helping me through all my tech issues and being patient here. It's been just amazing hearing your story, and I knew people need to also hear your story. So I just really appreciate you being here, and I'm so inspired by your story, and I can't wait to share it.
Oh gosh, thank you. Thank you for that. And if anybody needs help, working through trying their first triathlon, trying to do their training, I'm happy to assist if anybody needs it.
And the Without Limits training group, that is mostly Wilmington, North Carolina based.
We have several branches. We have Charleston, South Carolina as well. We have a Raleigh, branch. So
Wow.
Yeah, so it branched out. It started with a person of one, and then it has grown to hundreds. So we do have other branches. So
wow, that's amazing. And you put on camps where I'm going to her camp here mid-August. That is not this weekend, but next weekend. And we're just going to be camping, learning from great swim instructors, bike instructors, and running professionals. So I can't wait to do that.
Yeah, we get to play in the water and on the bike, and probably do trail runs, but it's just a great environment and camaraderie. The camaraderie of the group, and it's so supportive, and we all encourage each other and teach each other, and we all have something to learn.
Yeah, and Chris will be. I just met Chris.
Yeah, Chris is phenomenal. So he's just a phenomenal athlete. He is a great collegiate runner, high school collegiate runner, and now a great cyclist. So, and competitive cyclist. So we got a good team that will get that in the camp. So if anybody's interested in that, reach out to you, and you reach out to me.
Can you still sign up?
Yeah.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, I think I gave until Tuesday of next week. So if anybody else is interested, we still have a few slots remaining.
Okay. Good to know. I have a friend that wants to sign up, so I'll have them sign up.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you all so much for joining me on the very first episode of Meaning in Movement. And thank you, Alecia, again. Your story is just so powerful, and a reminder to us all that movement is not defined by the races we complete, the miles we cover, the age that we start, or even the physical achievements reached. Sometimes movement looks different. It is the courage to take your first step after an injury, to rebuild trust into your own body, and to continue just moving forward every day, step by step, when life asks you to overcome something you least expect. So, throughout her recovery, movement took on many different forms, as we heard, and it became a way for Alecia to face adversity, regain independence, and find strength in the moments when she felt the most vulnerable. Her journey was not about healing her femur, it was about discovering her resilience and using her experience as a way to inspire others to face their own challenges and believe they can overcome them. That is what Meaning in Movement is all about. It's about the stories and why we move, how movement shapes us, and the ways it connects with everybody through challenges, creativity, and transformation. We're all here to grow together. Whether you're an athlete, an artist, someone navigating recovery, or simply just someone wanting to learn more, be curious about yourself through movement. I hope this conversation gives you guys something to carry with you into this next chapter, this next day. And thank you for being here at the beginning of my journey. If Alicia's story has resonated with you, please share this with someone who might need the reminder to know that they are capable of overcoming more than what they realized. All right, until next time, keep moving with intention, keep creating, and keep finding meaning in movement, everyone.